Well, blessed good morning to all of you. So excited to be back with all of you and to continue the good work that we have started here and will continue to work, and the encouragement that each of us give to one another. We want to welcome all of our visitors. We have many visitors with us, especially family that is visiting with family, and we're so glad that you've been here to take that time to encourage us with your presence and to worship our Lord and our Savior. This morning I want to do a one-time report of this year's trip to Romania. And again, it's one of those remarkable things, at least for me, that there were no New Testament faithful churches in Romania, at least not after World War II, because communism made religion illegal. And so when communism came to an end, the efforts of many to start churches there was so valuable and so important. And the fact that these churches have continued for over 30 years is really a goal that we have. We want to continue to see these churches thrive. And the only way that it's possible for us to encourage them, as Paul often visited the churches that he started, is by your support. And I just want to thank you so much for all of your support, not just financial support, but also all of your support in making trips like this possible. Trips like this are not easy, and I always like to kind of map it out a little bit, where on this particular trip, we travel more than 15,000 miles, planes, trains, and automobiles. We did 4 airplane flights, and I put in there 3 airlines because it's becoming more and more challenging since COVID to fly over there, to find a flight from Tampa to somewhere in Europe, and then to find a flight that you can get on to go into Bucharest that leaves late enough to where you can get there on time. Well, this time we had to use 3 different airlines to do that. And what happened was, of the 6 of us, only 2 of our bags made it to Bucharest. And so there are some challenges to this. We had 2 train rides, multiple subway rides, several car rides, some where I was driving. That was a very big thing, because for 30 years I have not driven in Bucharest, and that was on purpose. Well, it finally came time where I would have to do that. One of the things that we did is we decided to rent a van the second week, since there were so many of us and so much luggage. So we rented a van, and I was part of that had to drive in Bucharest. And I'll show you some pictures of that, but driving in Bucharest is kind of like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It's kind of what it's like. So, but I survived, and so did everyone in the van with me, so that's good. One hotel stay, which is where we had the conference, and I'll talk about that. 2 apartments, and so we moved from one apartment, then back to another apartment, then back to the first apartment, then to the hotel. It's not easy to live out a suitcase, pack that suitcase, get that suitcase open, live out of the suitcase, pack. You know, there's some challenges to it. But it's very rewarding, and this year was our big thing at the end was our Bible conference, in which we, and thanks to you, invited Christians from all the congregations to one city, to one hotel, to one place for in-depth Bible study. And what was really cool is that we had other countries that came, brethren from other countries that were involved as well. So it just went off really, really well. So here is a picture of driving in Bucharest. If you took the camera and you went to the right here, you're just going to see lines of cars, right? So basically what I learned is you have to find the littlest of openings, and you just got to go. And most of them are expecting you to do that, so they're okay. But then there are some that not too happy with that, and they let you know it. So it takes several minutes to get into this whole thing of traffic, and then once you get into it, well, then you proceed, and you can, hopefully you can see this. It's just kind of everyone jockeying for position, trying to get as close to the next light and so forth. So, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. But again, we survive. So, a couple passages that I think kind of reflect what we want to talk about, and a couple lessons I want to bring out to you in this report. But first, in 2 Timothy 4, verse 2 and 3, a passage we're well aware of. Preach the word, be ready in season, out of season, reprove, rebuke, exhort, with great patience and instruction. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but wanting to have their ears tickled, they will accumulate for themselves teachers in accordance to their own desires. That is a important passage that is so true, and why it's important for us in this country, in Lakeland, as well as the Christians in Romania, to be urgent in preaching the word. Because as time goes on, that verse 3 becomes so apparent to us, that people get wrapped up in this world, they accept one of these competing ideas or theologies, and they don't want to hear the truth. The Great Commission, Mark 16, verse 15 and 16, and he said to them, go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. He who has believed and has been baptized shall be saved, but he who has disbelieved shall be condemned. Now, most of the time we emphasize verse 16 there. But this morning I want to emphasize verse 15. The Great Commission is to take the gospel into all the world. And I'm so thankful to be part of those who saw that opening when the Iron Curtain of communism came down and saw the importance of going and taking the gospel to Eastern Europe. And so it's important that we understand it's not just where we are, but we want to support, as you have, the preaching into all the world. So, here we go. Just wanted to map out a little bit of our trip. So we always fly into Bucharest. All the other airports are basically too small for commercial aircraft, except for Timișoara, but that's not convenient for us. So we fly into Bucharest, and here we begin working with that church as we often do. And so they meet on Thursday night, not Wednesday night, because they can only rent a room for their church building on Thursday night. And so here's my son Kyle doing the Thursday night Bible class. And what they do is they tell us where they're at. They're studying the book of James, James chapter 2. And so you can see Yaakov 2. And they say, okay, here you go. And so Kyle presented a lesson on James chapter 2. And this is Alex Opvos. Now, Alex is a pillar of the church in Bucharest, and he is the son of husband and wife, a mother and father. I'm going to show you in just a second. But here we are, and we're studying, and here we are as Kyle teaches us, and some of them taking really good notes and so forth. This gentleman's very interesting. He is a preacher from Florida who is actually preaching in the churches of Albania. And because of visa reasons, he had to leave Albania for 90 days. So, I don't know why, but him and his family decided to come to Romania and spend that 90 days. He doesn't speak any Romanian, but he still comes to services there. And this night he was able to hear it in English since we were translating. So very interesting gentleman there from Albania. All right, this is Marian and his wife Gabby. And Marian was the preacher in Bucharest for years and years, since the 90s. And so we worked with Marian and his wife Gabby for years and years. But then he retired. And when you retire, apparently even in Romania, where do you move to? Florida, exactly. So they actually have a daughter that got married and is living in the Orlando area. And so they have moved to Florida in retirement. But of course, preachers don't retire. So he's actually preaching for the church in New Smyrna, Florida, over on the coast. And tonight, he is preaching over at Southwest for Jeff Carr, who's out of town. So I just wanted to let you know. I know we have our group meetings, but if you're motivated to meet two of the Romanians, they'll be over at Southwest tonight. And so their son Alex remains back in Bucharest, and he's just a tremendous pillar for that church, so much that he does, and his wife as well. So this is a picture of the current preacher. This is Bogdan and his wife Diana. And Bogdan, I won't say grew up in the church, but as a teenager became a Christian, and now has taken over the preaching. And he's in his first year of preaching, and so we're encouraging him all that we can. There are several churches in Tampa and Lakeland that support him financially. And back in February, they had their first child. This is little Theodore. We call him Theo. And of course, he got all the pictures of everyone because he's just so adorable. And so this is little Theo, the new future of the church in Bucharest. I want to look at this passage because it's going to bring in one of the lessons I want to bring out in this. 1 Timothy 6, 9, and 10. But those who want to get rich fall into temptation and snare and many foolish and harmful desires which plunge men into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all sorts of evil, and some, by longing for it, have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many a pang. This is one of the great passages that just remind us that we need to be careful about how far we live in this world, this love of money, the love of stuff. And to me, this is really shown. This is like the epitome of all of that. While we were in Bucharest, Kyle and I spent some time to visit what's called the House of Parliament, or the People's House. We call it the Big House. And this is a house that their Romanian dictator, Nicolae Ceausescu, started building in the 80s. But he was not able to complete it before communism came to an end, the revolution, and he was executed. You might remember last year we visited his mansion, in which, again, the same message. This man took all the money from the Romanians, made them live in one-bedroom apartments, as he lived in this mansion, being the only one that had a big, huge indoor pool. Well, in the 80s, he started building this parliament building, which this picture doesn't show you the magnificence of it or how big it is. So I got this picture, and here's what it looks like. And even this, you may not get the whole scale, but this is a car right here. So that might show you the size. The only building I know that is bigger than this is our own Pentagon. And so Kyle and I, they do tours of this, took some time to kind of take a look at this. And so, again, it's just a reminder of the epitome of this man of greed and covetousness and wanted to have the biggest and the best of everything in this small little country, this poor country called Romania. And so as you see here, this isn't even all of it. Half of it is underground. It goes 12 stories high. And so we took a little bit tour of that. And so you have, these giant chandeliers. You've got marble flooring everywhere. You've got these conference halls, some bigger than others. Where in our Capitol building, and that's what it would be, we have basically one big hall for the Congress or for the Senate, one for the House of Representatives. They have 33 of these. 33. I don't think they use all of them. And this costs so much, not just to build it, but to maintain it. They're now starting to rent out these rooms to make money so that they can maintain all of the lights and marble and everything that it takes. Now, our tour guide right here, young Romanian man, spoke English very well, great tour guide, told us, we tried to calculate what it would take to see the whole building. He said, this is what we came up with. If you spent 1 minute in each room, it would take you over 18 hours to see the whole building. So this is a government building. People work here. There's offices, storage, all of that, not just these halls. That means people that spend their career working in this building will not see all of it. The love of money, greed, covet. When I think about that, I first and foremost think of Nicolae Ceausescu, how he made the people live in poverty so that his ego could be boosted. And the funny thing is, he never got to actually use it. All right, so in Bucharest, we're working with Bucharest. On that first weekend, Buddy Payne decides, I'm going to stay and work with the church. So Carrie, Kurt, and I head down to Constanza, where another church is. And it's just about a 2.5 hour train ride. And so here we are on the train. And joining us is a Christian from Bucharest, and this is Radu. And I want to introduce you to Radu. Radu is a pretty new Christian. His brother, Liviu, is a veteran Christian. We have worked with Liviu since the late 90s. And so Radu agreed to go with us and be our translator for this trip. But he said, listen, when we're not doing Bible study, I have to work. So here we are on the train, 1 laptop, 2 laptops, 2 phones, headphones. He's working on the train ride. And he just did a great job for us. Like I said, he's a fairly new Christian. And here's something really cool. A big influence on why he became a Christian was, number one, his brother Liviu. Liviu has moved to Holland and works and lives in Holland right now. But before that happened, he would take his brother Radu to Prague, Czech Republic, where every year there's a Christian by the name of Bill Bynum that holds the lectureship there. And he brings some of the FC professors, and they do an in-depth study on a book or a subject. Well, he would bring Radu to that. And because of those trips, he was very influenced and eventually then was baptized into Christ. And so he's a fairly new Christian, but he is growing by leaps and bounds and is just a great part of the church in Bucharest. So here's the church in Constanza, outside their church building, not a big church. But one of the neat things is that most of the church here, thanks to your support, many of you, they were able to make it to the conference. And they would have to travel the furthest of any church to get to that conference. Okay? One of the interesting things about this church is they're the only church that actually saved up their money, bought a little house, and turned that house into a church building with their own money. They didn't take any outside donations. They definitely didn't take any money from churches. But they didn't take any money from Christians in America. They did this all on their own. And that they're the only church that can say that. And so, very impressive, very dedicated, close group. And so every day we were there, we had studies with them. about questions that they had, topics that they had been discussing and maybe even had a little argument about. And so they wanted us to set it straight. I don't know if we set it straight for them, but we talked about those subjects. And so here's Carrie Keenan, and here's Radu translating. Here's Kyle. I did the Sunday morning Bible class on a question. And so really great Bible classes, great worship with them. And I want to introduce you to this man real quick. You know, back in the day, it was not only hard traveling, it was kind of what we call rustic type of living. Beds would not be that comfortable. They would be old. Refrigerators would be small. Kitchens would be small. It would be hard to find, to go into you wouldn't have big grocery stores, right? You have to go to one store for one thing. And it's kind of hard living. Well, it's made a lot of advancements, a lot of changes. When we're in Constanza, we rent a very, very nice and spacious apartment from this man. His name is Constantine. He's not a Christian, but a very nice man who likes to come over and talk to us. He doesn't speak any English, so it's a little bit of a challenge sometimes. But together we figure out what he's saying. Well, Constantine, this is again very rare, has this garden in the backyard. And in this garden is a fire barbecue pit. Again, I mean, we don't have a whole lot of Romanians go in their backyard with Traeger grills, okay? He said, you can use this. I'm like, okay. So Saturday we had a few hours open time. I said, I'm going to make a barbecue. We're going to barbecue some chicken. I didn't know exactly. Couldn't find it. So I bought some wood. I started, and he comes out, and he's like, and before I know it, he's taking over, and he's making the fire. And so I'm thinking, oh, okay, you make the fire. He starts cooking the chicken. And I mean, it's some of the best barbecue. And so life used to be hard, but it's made a lot of advances. And so we can't complain about, the living conditions there. One of the Christians has a massage chair, and so we took turns in the massage chair. Kyle found a nice ice cream place. And then after worship Sunday, we all went to this new gigantic mall in Constanza, of all places. I mean, when Tamara and I lived in Constanza, we never thought there would be anything like this. And so we all ate together in their food court. This was a mall that I don't think we have anything like this in Lakeland. It would compete with just about any mall in America. And so there was a bunch of us, so we found this little strip here and had lunch together before we had to depart and go back to Bucharest. So, I think about that. There's preachers that go to these third world countries in Africa, and they really do, suffer with the living conditions there, but they do it for the gospel. Well, there were a couple days we didn't have hot water. There was a period of time that they turned off the electricity. You still have moments like that, but we can't complain too much. It's pretty nice over there now. So Sunday night we go back to Bucharest, and we're excited because the second week has started, and we've got a couple ladies joining us. Carrie's wife Kim and Tamara left of all days on Mother's Day to travel to Romania, and so worried about them. That's a long trip. And so I want to try to play a video for you. I have a speaker. Hopefully it all works out. Let's see if it works here. Nope, I thought that would happen. It turned off on me. So there's Tamara coming into the airport. I'm going to see if I can fix this because there's a video at the end I really want to play for you. I think I might have lost power. Oh, hold on, I'm hitting the wrong button. That helps. All right. Let's see if it connects here. There we go. So here they come after 14 hours. I don't know if you caught that. She's not too happy. No luggage. So both of their luggage didn't arrive. And so we had to go back a couple days later when it finally arrived. Luckily, it arrived before we were heading out to Severine. But that's our last part. And I want to share this with you. So they get into the airport about 9 o'clock. They have to fill out paperwork for their missing luggage. And so we get back to our apartment in Bucharest about 10:30. The Christians came over and made them dinner, made us all dinner at 10:30. And so this is a Romanian dinner, but they knew it was a long trip and they wanted to feed us before we head off to bed. And it just goes to show you that the hospitality of those Christians, just outstanding, as we have many Christians that would do the same thing here. So we get into the van. This is why we rented the van, and we head over to Drabuța, Târnău, Severine for short. It's about a little over 5 hour car ride. And here we are. This is the final week. We're going to do this Bible conference, right? The Bible conference is going to be Wednesday night through Saturday. 4 countries represented, of course, us from the U.S., Romania. We also have a preacher and some Christians from Moldova, which is next door to Romania. And then Peter, right there, is from Belgium, a preacher from Belgium. He preaches for a Church of Christ in Belgium that they only speak English. Interesting. All right? And then this is Sergei, who is from Moldova. And Sergei has a mother that is Romanian, so he speaks Romanian. He has a father that's Ukrainian, so he speaks Russian. And you think, oh, well, they must have moved. No. Part of the Moldova where they live used to be part of Romania. And so what happened? Well, it got annexed and it became part of Moldova. So they didn't move, the country moved. And then, after World War II, it became part of the Soviet Union. And so they never moved, but the countries moved on them. And so we actually had Christians from 4 different countries. Members of every congregation were in attendance. Again, thanks to many of you. 11 different speakers, Romanian and English. And one of the neat things is we only translated the English. We tried to make it as Romanian as possible. And so we just pieced all it together. They had the English up on the screen, and we were able to understand exactly what they were saying. So it was a unique but a really neat experience. 3 translators used. We all stayed in the same hotel, and we all ate our meals together. And that was so important because we were together socially, together for our meals, and then that just helped us in our together time as well for our Bible studies. So this was taken the last night of the conference, and this isn't everybody that was there, but this gives you a good idea of all those in attendance. Again, this is 30 years of preaching the gospel, all up on this screen, different churches, all represented here. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about this gentleman, a Christian brother of ours. His name is Ioanut, I'm going to try it, Fratosteanu, all right? And you wouldn't even know if I did a good job or not on that. Sounded pretty good. So he's from a city called Craiova. It's a pretty good sized city. It's about 2 hours by car to Severine, so very close to Severine. Now, back in, I believe, 2019, we tried to start a church in Craiova. There was a young American couple that moved there, and when we took a trip out there, we tried to help them with advertising and Bible studies, but for different reasons, it just didn't pan out. But this is another great lesson, is that, when God has a plan, it's going to work out. So here's a young man who was converted by the institutional brethren, but actually studied himself out of the institutional part of the church. And when he started to make a stand against it, the church turned on him, and he was kind of a man without a church. And so now he's in Craiova trying to start a non-institutional church there in Craiova, and he's already baptized one person. So, where we fell, if God wants it to be, it's going to happen. And that's really neat to see that. And we're excited about that. And so we might be making some trips to Craiova in the near future to encourage him and to help him as well. So 11 different speakers. I think I tried to get them all up here. Yep, there they are. We had PowerPoint. Again, preachers from Moldova, Romania, and from us English speakers. So we would have morning sessions and we'd have a night session. In the morning session, we'd all be together, and then we'd take the ladies and we would transport them. We'd drive them to the church building in Severine, and they would have a ladies' Bible class. And so this is something that they've never had before, where they have these women Bible classes, and they loved it. And so here's Tamara teaching the first one. Here's Kim teaching the second one. And the ladies are translating for them. And then Valentina, one of the Romanians from Bucharest, she taught the third day. Now this is really neat. Our own Cindy, Sister Cindy Cowart, decided she wanted to do something for these ladies. So she made them bookmarks. And she knew she had to make something small because Tamara would have to carry it on her suitcase, right? And we were kind of afraid when her suitcase didn't show up that we wouldn't have these bookmarks. But these ladies love the bookmarks, and so they want to take a picture so Cindy could see how excited they were about it. So here they are holding their bookmarks, right? Want to let you know that how much they appreciate that. And so again, sometimes just a cup of cold water, just a small gesture can go a long, long ways. So that was a really neat feature of the Bible conference. And so here's some pictures of us in the conference room. And then the conference was over, and this was neat to see. The Romanians from different churches, the emotion, the hugs, the tears as they're having to say goodbye. These are small churches in, not a great big country, but comparison a big country. And it's so important, I feel, to have that fellowship with Christians from other cities and to know them and to use the contacts that you have. We know from our own selves. We have gospel meetings and we have lectureships and we have, singings so that what? People from other congregations could come and we could get to know them and see them and get that support. And it's so important to have fellowship in our congregation, but to also extend that to other congregations. And you see that. You definitely see that in that country where they're dependent on one another to keep going and have that strength. So, tears and hugs as we came to an end. I wanted to show you this picture. This is, again, little Theo, about 3 months old at this point. His dad, Bogdan. And here is the gentleman, the Christian, that won, or Ioannuts, and I'll just say Ioannuts F. I'm not going to try that last name again. This is the gentleman that he did baptize into Christ. He's 91 years old. He came every day to the conference. He lives in Craiova. And so I took a picture of the youngest in attendance and the oldest. 91 versus 3 months old. So here is a little video from the Christians in Constanza. Many of you helped, you adopted a family, and I wanted to play that. Again, hopefully the speaker's playing through it.
Hello, my name is Laura Cristescu. This is my beautiful children.
Hello, my name is Bella. Hello, my name is David.
I'm Yuan from Constanța.
My name is Luța Doru, and thank you so much for support to come here in Tocusaleri to make the conference all together, the Christian from the whole country. Thank you so much. God bless you too.
Hello, my name is Ionut, and he is my wife, Lori, and my son, Eric.
Hello, I'm Rosita from Constanza. So I'm glad to be here with your help and God's will. Thank you very much.
Okay, back to me again. We want to say thank you for everything what you do for us, for this beautiful conference in Tocusaleri, Romania. I do not it was possible to participate here without your support. We want to say thank you again. This is our part of the church from Constanța, the second part remaining there. But anyway, we hope so in the next conference to be all together. We say thank you for your support.
Thank you.
So they just wanted to verbalize, want to put some faces to those that you helped get to that conference. So this is Rodica, and the neat thing about Rodica is she was baptized in 1994 when we were living there. And so she's been faithful all of these years. She's the oldest member, both in age and also in time in the church. And so they wanted to say a little thank you for all of that support. And so it was a great trip, a great conference. They were encouraged, we were encouraged, and again, it doesn't happen without your prayers and your support. And thank you so much for letting me give a little report and some important lessons we learned as we look at, Christianity in another country. To be part of God's family is so important. And, if you're not a Christian, I hope that you look at these Christians here today as well as up on the screen, because they've made a decision to live for Christ. They've made the right decision. And we want to encourage you by standing up and singing. And if there's something that we can help you with, either becoming a Christian or getting your life stronger with Christ, we want you to make that known to us. And so if you want to respond to Christ and His invitation, I want you to come now as together we stand and as we sing.